right. It's Sunday, January 21st, and I'm here with Abigail Blatchford, who is once again the leader, far and away, the leader in the Winter Challenge on total mileage. So Abigail, let's start with, where are you, and then talk about how you're doing this.
I am currently in Oxford in the UK, which is pretty far away from Massachusetts. But my brother has participated in the Winter Warrior Challenge in LA for several years. So I feel like, wherever you are in the world, you can always take the opportunity to get outside and get in some miles. Um, I did start in Massachusetts and then I came back about a week into January, but it's actually very easy to get miles in here because I don't have a car. And unlike living on Cape Cod, you can kind of walk everywhere. So as soon as I exit my apartment, there's just places to walk. I don't have to like worry about highways. Um, so it's definitely feasible to get a lot of miles in here.
Yeah. Uh, Tell us about how you got into the Winter Challenge, because it seems like it's a family affair for you and your family.
Yes. My dad started years ago. I remember that I was still probably in like seventh grade or something. It was probably when they first started happening.
Give us your
My
dad's
dad
name.
was,
Give him a shout out.
yes, Carl Gustafson, very active
Carl's the
on Cape
man.
Cod. Yes, I have my Cape Cod move
There it
sweatshirt.
is. You're representing.
I am. Yeah, so it definitely started because of him. So I remember like vividly one year we got a blizzard and we lost power. So we ended up at a hotel. And I remember my dad was like, I have to get my miles in. So I remember him just like dressing up head to toe. And I was like, this man is insane. Like, I am never doing this. And yet here we are several years later. And yes, I am going outside in all kinds of weather. I think last January we had the day when it was like minus 15. And my whole family had also gone to Big Sky and there it was like minus 20. So we were going out with like our helmet and ski goggles. So clearly something in my brain finally snapped, like genetics kicked in. So I think the rest of my family started probably like 4 years after my dad had been doing it. And when I started, it's kind of crazy because I struggled to get the 5 miles in. I was at Northeastern and I would try to walk around classes, but it was definitely like much harder. I had never really walked before. I was always a gymnast and a dancer, so all of my activities were very much inside. Um, this was kind of the first time that I was like, oh, being outside is actually kind of nice. And so it's actually like after doing Winter Warrior that I then started like walking every day. I think I had a streak going all the way through last Christmas from like 2018 or something.
I see Sandra Blatchford in second place. Tell us who Sandra is.
Yes, Sandra is my mom. And my dad got to my mom first. The two of them have done like 7 marathons in 7 days in 7 states. So I feel like once they started running, it was kind of all over for them. Yeah, so she's very motivated. She's very impressive. And so they always do a marathon at the start and at the end of the year or end of the month for Winter Warrior.
You've mentioned your brother now a couple times. What's his name?
Jordan Gustafson.
I see Jordan's actually in 20th place. As of yesterday, he was a few miles ahead of me, in fact. Um,
Mm.
I got a long run in today. I got 14 in today, so I may have caught up to him. I don't know. We'll see. It just depends on how many miles he did today. So tell us about what marathons you have run, and then also which one are you training for in February?
Yeah, so the first one I did was in Colorado because my brother's following in my parents' footsteps to run a marathon in all 50 states. So my dad did that, completed that several years ago at this point. Now it's definitely my brother's goal. I'm not really sure where it falls on my mom's goals anymore, but I said I would travel to certain states to do the races. So we went to Colorado. We did Steamboat, which was quite a first marathon because it's very mountainous and
That's
I was
brutal.
not as trained as I should have been. Yeah, it was brutal. It was and I specifically trained for this marathon in March last year, which was in Virginia Beach. And that one went much better. I had done a 22-mile run and had like specifically trained for this. So then I felt great. It was probably one of the best runs that I'd had like up to that point. I was like, oh, marathons aren't terrible. Like it didn't hit a wall, felt perfect. So I was like, this is why you train adequately and then taper. And then my last one that I did was in October. And that one was kind of on a whim because I was moving to Oxford and I saw that they were having a marathon at the end of the month. So I had moved like 3 weeks prior. And I just decided to run like a local marathon here. And I had done a lot of Spartan beasts, but I had not run like over 26 miles since March. Somehow I ended up like getting a PR.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so that was really exciting. But it was very close to qualifying for Boston and all of the majors, but just over. And now I've been training for the one in February, hoping to go just under 3:30. So we'll see
So if
how
you
it
get the
goes.
BQ in February, that means you can run the 2025 Boston Marathon, right?
Yes, I don't know if I will run Boston or if I'll run like London and Berlin and stuff while I'm on this side of the
Yeah.
pond. But
Well, you might be the first person in the history of running that
to
has said,
qualify and
I
not
don't know if
go,
I will run Boston if I get a BQ.
I kind of
That's
owe
pretty
it.
impressive.
I owe it to my brother. I really want to run with them because it's kind of their like big dream to run Boston. So I think it'd be cool if we're able to run it together.
Yeah.
But
How are you tracking your mileage? It seems like all your mileage are usually is even numbers. So I'm assuming you just kind of like, is it an estimate or are you using an app to track it? How do you keep all this going? And are you doing like one run per day or are you kind of like a couple walks and a couple runs and just tolling at the end of the day?
I track it on my watch and with like the Garmin app. And also I track my runs one on Garmin and also then on like ASICS app or whatever.
Runkeeper. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have both. Usually I do one run in the morning and then walks throughout the day. Sometimes I'll do a little bit of like cycling or something. Especially now, like in Oxford, it's very cycle heavy, but then you could half everything. But that's usually very, very little. I work 3 miles away. So, and then I go to a gym that's a mile and a half away. So even if I did no run, um, just going like to those 2 points would give me 9 miles on the day. Usually I go for a walk at like lunch to kind of split up the day.
Yep.
If I have to go grocery shopping, again, like literally everything is by foot. So it's kind of why being here in Oxford's very helpful. But yeah, I usually just go by like what's on my watch at the end of the
Yeah.
day.
Okay.
But I don't really do a lot of walking indoors, so I'm gonna say most of it is happening outside. But
Yeah. I was going to ask if you're there for school, because you look like you're in, the school years, and Oxford, everybody knows, has a big university there. But you just mentioned working, so can you tell us why you're there and maybe share what you're doing?
yes, it is actually for school, except they have a really interesting program. So I'm getting my PhD, but it's all by research. So I'm doing women's reproductive health sciences. So I'm a bioengineer by undergrad trade. So I'm doing a lot of like wet lab research. So a lot of cell culture, things like that. Um, so I call it a job because essentially it seems like my job in industry. So I'm really just doing research. I don't have to take any classes, but I do have to write a thesis.
Yeah.
And so there's a couple other major papers and like presentations along the way. But it's a really cool program. Not like anything in the US. I don't think you can actually technically study and get a PhD in women's reproductive health in the US. So this is kind of what drew me to applying. I did not think that I was going to get in. It's obviously very prestigious. Um, so yeah, I was really, really excited. And I happened to be in London last year in October, right after I had finished applying. And so I popped up to Oxford in the event that I got in. I was like, just to see what it's like. And kind of fell in love because it's very like quaint, old. There's a lot of like parks. I live near, there's a park in my backyard, and there's horses every morning. And like you can go up to the horses, and they're very friendly. Sometimes there's cows. And so it's definitely like stepping a bit back in time. That's pretty nice.
Any predictions on where you're going to finish? We still have what, 10 days left in this thing. You're at 481 miles in 21 days, which means I don't know if my math is correct, but it sounds like you're averaging somewhere around 23 miles a day. Um, so I mean, you could potentially crack 600 miles, right?
Yeah, I guess 600 will probably be the goal. I think I did about that last year. Um,
That's wild. That's really wild. Yeah. And
yeah,
I mean, and your mom is far and away
very,
second place overall. And I'm just hoping to like, get to within 50% of your mom's mileage, but that's
my
not,
mom is very determined to come in
yeah,
second place. Yeah.
yeah.
She's like, I know that I'm not gonna beat you, but I will be second.
Well, it's a
I don't
family affair here. We've got Abigail
actually
Blatchford in first overall, Sandra, your mom, in second overall, your brother Jordan in 20th overall, and where is dad? Do you know how your dad's doing? Carl?
my dad is aiming to do silver this year, so he'd probably be lower down. But
Okay. Well, I mean, frankly, your dad could have the slowest, least number of miles, and he would still be number one in my book. I'm incredibly grateful for you having, gotten your dad involved in the Winter Challenge. He's invited literally dozens of people from Cape Cod,
yeah,
in addition to his family, and he's a legend with the Winter Challenge. We've been doing this for 11 years now, and as long as I can remember doing it, which is from day one, your dad has been involved. So I'm
yeah.
very grateful that he got you involved.
My dad, I think honestly, his mission is in life is to get as many people moving in any capacity as possible. And he's definitely instilled that in me because anytime I have a conversation with someone, they're like, oh, like I hate running or I hate doing this. And it's like, well, there's a million ways to move. Just do what makes you happy. And I think people kind of get stuck into like thinking they have to move in one way or another. But I think my dad really helped me realize that like just get out, get active, try a bunch of different things, like something will stick. I definitely never thought that I would be and enjoy running so much. So very grateful to have seen him definitely get a lot of people up and moving, and he's definitely built a community on the Cape with all that he's done. But I'm really grateful for the Winter Challenge too, because I mean I now love walking, love running, and if I think back to where I was when I started, that was not even close to the case. I was like dreading going outside in the snow. I was like, oh, I'm not gonna get my miles in. Like it's so hard. So it's definitely been cool to see.
All right, Abigail, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm gonna hopefully clip this down to something manageable and share it with everybody tomorrow.
Okay.
You're at 481 miles so far, and we're looking to see you crack last year's total and break into the 600s this year. Congratulations, keep it up,
Thank
and
you.
thank
Thank
you for
you.
joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's
Okay.
been delightful.